refer to it afterwards, or anyone who may not have been able to attend one of these sessions today can refer back to it. So we'll go with that. Okay. Wonderful. I think we're doing all set to go there. So I want to thank you all for coming into Battle Apps. I'm excited to get this going. It's, I guess, application development and programming and everything is kind of one of my pet projects. So I'm happy to be able to sort of bring some of these sessions to you guys here, and I'm hoping to get you guys to, think creatively. The purpose of this is not to program an application, although that may be an eventuality maybe for a second part of this, but the purpose of this is to get you thinking creatively about the design of an app, not the technical development of it, okay? And the design aspect merges business understanding, social understanding, cultural and activity understanding. Like you're building something that people want to use, that solves a problem for them, that gives them a value of some sort, whether that's educational value or occupational value or some sort of gaming pleasure, whatever. Okay. So the sessions we're delivering here are in that vein. So I'd like you to bring sort of your full creative open mind to this process, because the biggest part of it is going to be that creative part. I think I sent out, or I know I sent out the link to the Teams channel, and I'm hoping you all got that. And did anyone test it in? Were you all able to log into the Teams channel? Because if I just go back here, share my screen. Actually, where are my Teams channel? Down here. Had to think about this for a minute. And let me just share my screen with, I'll just share the screen. I'll just share the screen so that at this point, so everyone can see it. So when you go to the Teams channel, you'll see that there's a few things here that are going to help you. There's basically a link to each of the decks that we're going to be working from. So, take some notes, take pictures, do whatever, but we've also got those links should be up there available to you. And of key importance is the Battle app workbook. So you'll be able to download it from there as well. Okay. And there's also a Word document with the overview. I sent you all out an email either on Friday or Monday. And the information about this session and the other sessions and some other details are all in there as well. Okay. These links are up and available. Everyone here can refer back to them when you get back home. If you have your laptop or phone or mobile device here, you can look at them now as well. But we'll be using these links to project and show on the screen. We'll be sharing all that online as well. So with that said, I'm going to go back and I'm going to share a different screen. I'm going to go sharing my Google screen. Okay. Wonderful. Okay. So I'm going to go just a little brief introduction about these sessions here. We're going to take about an hour today. I don't want to make this a long, onerous process, but I do want to open up the opportunity for you guys to sort of take advantage of some of the things that I'm going to be able to sort of fill in terms of app development and how to go about that process. And then hopefully you'll kind of work at home a little bit, and we're going to have some other sessions. I'll explain a little bit more with that in a minute. And we'll come up with a nice collaborative environment where, we can bounce some ideas off each other and learn a little bit more about really this new world that we live in with, technology and mobile applications and all of that. So step number one, and my name, Todd Graham. If you need to email me, most of you probably have it at this point because I've emailed you all out. Todd_Graham@cbu.ca. So feel free to email me any questions over the next little while as we're going through this process here. Okay. So what is Battle Apps? First of all, it's competition. So we've a little bit of a prize in there. It's a $500 prize, and it begins today, so May 9th. You're going to submit your final idea on the 23rd. Okay? So really, you're just going to email me the workbook that we're going to have back, and with that, we're going to do our judging. You do not need to know how to program. In fact, that's not even part of this at all, and I'll explain that in a little more detail in a minute. This is the ideation part and the business establishment part. You know, you have this great idea. Does anyone in the world want it? Who would use it? What benefit would it give them? Okay, and then what would it look like? How would it function? Okay? Those are the parts that we're looking at today. And when you look at the development process that many people take, coders take, is they start with the code and then they figure out what it's all about later on. And that's actually a little bit backwards. So what we're doing here is we're probably doing it in the proper sequence, where we're figuring out, you know, what is the problem we're solving, what application, what are we building, and who is it for, before someone, not we, but someone eventually might sit down and code something. So we don't need to be programmers. There's going to be a project workbook. Okay, a project workbook, again, it's downloadable, and I'll leave you guys to do that. If anyone has a problem downloading it, just email me, and I'll email it to you. But it looks like this. Okay, and it starts off with just some basic, your information, contact information, and then it treats this process. Now, this is all fillable online. It's a PDF, so you can just fill it out online, and that's how you'll submit it to me, as completed PDF. And it asks you questions. You know, what's the problem that your customer is experiencing? How does your app solve this problem? Okay, it's got a customer problem statement there. Okay, I am blank. I am somebody. Who am I? Okay, and I'm trying to do something. What are you trying to do? Okay, but there's a problem with that. Okay, and because of this, it makes me feel a certain way. Okay, so business model, describe the end user of your app, your target customers in detail. You know, how do you make money? How do you finance this? Okay. So it goes through basically a series of questions, and that's what you're going to be completing. There are a couple of sheets for, this is something I do often from a marketing perspective, like it's a customer profile. So who's going to use this? Is it someone like you or someone you know? You know, who are they? What are they? What do they look like? Okay, what's their occupation? What language do they speak? What kind of income do they have? You know, you're kind of filling in this picture of, well, who really needs this? And again, this is all fillable online. There's a couple of other worksheets in there. Okay, and these are worksheets that I would go through in some of my other sort of business educational lectures and design thinking. I'm providing them here for you to work with and think about. I'm not trying to bore you and dive deep into some of these concepts, but you know, there's a design thinking template, and there's a lean business model example template. We'll talk briefly about what these are. I'll set you up. There's all kinds of resources online. Should you have any questions, please come back and ask me. Story branding. I'm really big on story branding, a story branding model. There's a couple of blank sheets in here. Okay, and you can take these and you can print them off, or you could photocopy and print them off. What's it going to look like? What's your app going to look like? Where are the buttons going to be? Okay, and you might have 2 of these, you might have 15 or 20 of these, like describing the different screens. Okay, so we're not going to be programming, but I do want you to think about, what does this look like? Where are the buttons? You know, what does the user see? Finally, just a couple of information pages, because there are some other tools we're going to use, and I'll discuss those in a little more detail as well. But we're going to use mock-ups, and there's a thing there for design thinking and some other resources that we'll work with. So there's a project workbook. It is online, and we'll be using that. The classes. So this is our introductory session. So you guys are here now at 11:30. There's some people online, and we're going to have another session at 2:30. So altogether, we'll probably have over 20 people that are going to be partaking in this process. So I'm very happy with that. The sessions are going to be recorded, and when I say sessions, I'll describe that in a little more detail. And of course, the best idea wins a prize. So we're looking for whoever completes and best describes their idea. Okay. So any questions at this point, either from the online crew or anyone in the room? Yeah?
When is the due date to submit this?
23rd. 23rd. So 2 weeks, basically. Yeah. Some of you online, you may not have been able to hear the question, but he asked when the submission was going to be. So the 23rd. So you got 2 weeks. Anything else? Okay. Wonderful. So the workbook. This is a screenshot of that homepage. Download the workbook. You'll find that down here, Battle Apps, along with some links to these decks that I'm using to present with today. Okay. So let's go right into it. What is an application? We all live in this mobile data app world now. At their core, apps solve problems. Okay? If you think of any of your favorite apps, and there's a lot of common favorite apps, Instagram and Facebook and Uber and all of those. They all solve a problem for somebody. Okay? If the app doesn't solve a problem, then why is anyone going to waste their time? Oftentimes, and this I think is interesting, oftentimes apps do something that's hard to do in the analog world, but easy for a computer. Okay? If I asked you what 3,422 times 912 divided by 18 was, I can't do that. But the computer does that easily, right? There are certain things that computers do that we actually think are hard, but they find easy. And those usually have to do with large sets of data, or searching through large piles of information, or making complicated calculations. Okay? Rather than defining, the meaning of life or what is love. Now maybe ChatGPT's got that figured out now. I don't know. We're in a very much an evolving world with what we're calling artificial intelligence. But generally what you find is apps are doing something that we kind of find hard, or we think that is kind of amazing. Okay, you visit somewhere and it's like, well, I want to know all of the restaurants that are around me. You can't know that. You're just visiting a new town. But whip open an app, all of a sudden you've got a list of every restaurant that's around you. Okay? Or you want a car to come pick you up. Push a button and it happens. Okay? In the analog world, in our physical world, those are hard for us to manifest or do, right? But in the digital world, these things are easy. Okay? So they start with, defining your problem. What is the problem that you or your user has? Okay, who is this person, and who are they, and will they buy it, or will they use it? Will they subscribe to it? Okay, is there a value in it for them? You've all probably downloaded an app at some point, click, looked at it, not worth my time. Right? It didn't provide value for you. Now, that doesn't mean the app was valueless for everybody. It just maybe someone else found value in that app. You didn't, okay? You want to know who that customer is, who that person is, okay? You literally want to know their name and their address and what they ate for breakfast, okay? The more of that you know, the more you can tailor what you're building, your idea, to serve their purpose. And then how do you get to them, okay? How do you market this to them? The common answer everyone has these days is, we're going to go on social media, going to go on Facebook, going to go on Instagram. There's no such thing as going on social media to market anything. That's like saying, I'm going to go out in the middle of the street and yell. Marketing and positioning and finding a market and finding a customer is much more specific. Now, social media exists completely, and yes, you can use it as a tool to reach a market or spread a message. But that's more complicated. Are we talking organic, or are we talking paid advertising on social media? Right? People pay for advertising on social media. That costs money. Okay? Organic. Well, I'm going to post something on my Instagram page or Facebook. Great. Your 34 friends are going to see it. Okay? That doesn't itself disseminate it out into the wider world. So So yes, there are practices and targets and ways to do this. They require more thought, okay, to distribute, whatever your concept or idea is. So what kinds of ideas make good apps? Big, hairy, scary ones. Like big ideas make great apps. Do you remember I said that, computers or technology does things that we find hard really easily? Okay? And then conversely, the simple stuff, we could probably do that without the technology. So, when you look like Uber, Uber was a dumb idea. What do you mean cars can just show up out of anywhere when you push a button, right? But that's the scale. Like Uber doesn't work in a small situation, okay? If there were 3 or 4 people with cars and 5 or 6 people using it, you'd push a button and you'd wait. You'd never get a car, okay? So scale is something that applications excel at. Almost the bigger, the better, okay? And the smaller stuff, the problem with the smaller stuff is it takes just as much effort to design and build this big app as it does for one that's going to serve your neighborhood, right? The scale doesn't quite match up if you're looking to put all that effort into a small, and not that you can't build a small local app or build something, I mean, you can, but you do have to ask yourself, am I going to spend months building this, or am I just going to do the thing that I could probably do easily without the app, right? Apps work best on these big ideas, big scale. So think big and then double that, make that bigger again. In reference, I've said this to just about everyone that's in my class or whatever. Canada's a small market, okay? So people will come in and say, well, I want to build an app for Nova Scotia, or I want to build an app for Sydney, or I want to build an app for Halifax. Great, but you're probably, or you may be, in that area where I'm going to expend all this effort, and I'm really in a small market, right? Canada is a small market. 38 million people in Canada. Okay, how many people in India? Okay, how many people in the United States? Okay, how many people in Europe? By scale, and if it works in Canada, or it works, I mean, the thing is, if it works in Nova Scotia or Halifax or Sydney, wherever it works, then maybe it will nicely scale up, and you've got a world-beating application. So all of this to say, think big, think large scale. How many people will this, how many, 10, 20, 30? If I'm going to interact with 30 people and put all this effort in, because these apps don't build themselves, you're going to find they don't design themselves, the thought process that goes into them. And you're going to touch 30 people? Yeah. Can I touch 30 million people? Well, that gets interesting. How many users does, and it's not exactly an app, but how many users does Netflix have in North America? Anybody know? 70 million, okay, North America. They got like 140 million outside, I think, but bigger numbers, right? Facebook, how many users? I don't really know off the top of my head, but it's probably approaching 1 billion, or is it 1 billion? Yeah, 1 billion. So those are massive, wild, runaway successes. But if your effort is going to touch a dozen people, having said that, you got to look at what you get back. Maybe it serves a market of 1,000 people, but it really solves a problem, and maybe that scales, or that extends over 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 years of service. Maybe there's value, but there's math done there. Okay. How many people? What's the total? They call it total addressable market. It takes just as much time to design an app for 500 people as it does for 500 million. Okay. Just as much work. That's where these runaway successes like Instagram and Facebook and Uber and Airbnb, that's where they've built their businesses per se. So what makes a winning bad app? So the idea is really important. The bigger, the better, but at the same time, the practical aspect plays into it as well. It's one thing to dream; it's another thing to dream with a roadmap. So exactly how does your solution solve this problem you've identified? Are you the customer? Come on in. Are you the customer? Now, there's two sides to that. If, like, you being the customer, excuse me, you being the customer, means you might actually be the person that has the keenest understanding of this problem. You also might be locked in your own little world too. So ask yourself that. If you are the customer, there may be some value in that, but that doesn't mean you got license to ignore the needs of the rest of the world. You know, what does it look like? You really are functionally picturing, like, what is it, when I hold it in my hand, what do I see? Okay, how is that presented? Pictures, buttons, text. You know, what value am I getting? You know, look at the apps that you like. Okay, great artists steal. Anyone know who said that? Pablo Picasso. Great artists steal. Okay. I'm sure, you know, I'm sure that there was a caveman somewhere that saw someone rolling a rock around and said, hey, wouldn't it be great if I kind of took the edges off that rock? Oh yeah, that's not a bad idea, okay? So ideas iterate, okay? They change, they develop, okay? Who invented the light bulb? Thomas Edison did not invent the light bulb. He improved the light bulb, okay? He didn't build the first light bulb. He built the first one that stayed lit over a long period of time. Yeah. So there's no shame. In fact, like borrowing, being inspired. Now, I'm not saying completely copy something. I mean, that stuff does happen. But look for inspiration. What apps do you like? And in particular, how do they work? And what do you like about them? Maybe you want to build some of that into your idea. We're going to go through a process of wireframing, and I've got an app for doing that. So we're not doing any programming, but in the workbook I provided you a couple sheets for drawing out, but I'm also giving you access to, or I'm basically showing you where to use this online tool, where you start to wireframe stuff. Okay? I'll explain that more in a little bit as well. So basically, it's a program online, and you got an iPhone there or a tablet, and you grab a button and you plop it down. You got a text field, you plop that down. Okay?
You are talking about Android Studio.
No, there's a lot of Visual Studios that do that. The one I'm going to show.
From MIT.
Completely believe you. The one I'm going to give you guys to use is free, and it's easy to use. So it's mockups. Okay, you're talking about like a visual application development environment that has that drag and drop feature sort of thing. This is like that, but not for programming, and it's free and easy to use. So I'm real keen on free stuff. Okay, real keen. So. And you're going to build this, you're going to visually build this prototype. You're going to wireframe it, meaning use, you know, simple illustrations, and you're going to visually prototype this idea. Okay, what do each of the screens look like? Okay. So what is a problem? So here's something that I believe about problem identification. People make a lot of assumptions about what they think they know, right? Oh, there's a problem with this. This is the problem. Yeah, maybe not, okay? What do you think you know? But then you got to ask yourself, what do I know? Okay? People come in and say, well, the world works this way, or this thing is happening in the market, and this is what it is. I'm like, really? Like, where's the data? Well, I don't know. Just because you said it doesn't make it true. If you believe something, go do the research. Find out. What you think you know and what you know are two different things. Okay? So a lot of this process of deciding what the problem is and who the customer is and how that's going to be served, I mean, there are definitely instances where gut instinct has worked. I like gut instinct. But I also like to do a couple Google searches and find out the easy stuff, so I'm not running down a path where I say there's no cheese at the end. Okay? So what do you think you know? What do you know? And what don't you know? Okay? When you've answered those, that's where you get to research. And when you've started that, you know, that's where you get, oops, go back. Okay? That's where you get to realize that what you thought you knew, you didn't know, and then you can start learning. Okay? Openness to learning is important in any application, in any job. Okay? Great, you're going to start with what you think or how you think things work, but the deeper you get into it, you're going to realize, oh, I really didn't know. And it's at that point where you just like put your hands up and say, you know what, I'm open to new ideas. That's where you can learn. Okay. So in describing your app, okay, so, and I'm talking about filling out the workbook a little bit, and I'm also talking about talking to people, okay? I'm sorry for the long letter. I didn't have time to write a short one. You ever hear that before? It's a famous quote, and I just forget who said it, but it's some old English white guy that said it 200 years ago, 150 years ago, 120 years ago. Might have been Keats or Yeats or one of those guys, I don't know. I'm sorry for the long letter. Writing to his sister. I'm sorry for the long letter. Didn't have time to write a short one. What's that mean? Okay. And this happens all the time. Students sit in front of me and they go on and on and on and on and on and really haven't said anything. Okay. And I get that. I think we all do that. We do that. I didn't have time to write a short one. You know when you sit there and you write an essay? So when I write an essay, I'm asked to write like a 15-page essay, I write the first 30 pages. Right? That part's easy. Then I got to bring it down to like 15. That's hard. Okay? Because you have to condense your ideas. You have to really astutely understand what you're trying to say it briefly. Okay? Completely. Yeah. This old dead white guy said it a couple hundred years ago. It must be true, right? You know, you also hear it said, less is more. Okay? I say this in teaching. My goal is to teach less better. That's what I try to do. Break it down, make it simple, teach less better. I don't always succeed. Very rarely do I actually succeed. But similes, analogies, and metaphors. Okay? So, you know, these are, if you can condense what you're doing into a simile or a metaphor, a story, something to explain the concept of somebody similar, like simply, there's value in that. So, an example, like someone once told me this years ago. If you want to explain it to anyone, use a car as a metaphor. Yeah, car. In North America, this actually doesn't quite translate internationally because, you know, other countries don't have the fixation on cars that North Americans do. But if I wanted to describe a concept to you, I would relate it to a car. You know, the car's fast, the car's technical. You know, hit the brakes. You know, make a U-turn. Like these phrases that reference that transportation car thing, and people get it, right? I have my own version of that. If you want to explain something to a Canadian, compare it to hockey, right? You know, a Canadian understands what it means to put a puck in the net, okay? Or go digging in the corners, right? Like similes, analogs, okay? And maybe in India, the analogy is cricket, okay? Using cricket to explain an idea to somebody. Come to North America and explain cricket, and we just look at you like, cricket? And you find these different ways of describing things. So, give you an example. So, movie examples, but Lion King. Who here has seen or know what Lion King is? Don't be afraid to raise your hand. Lion King, right? Okay. So the pitch for Lion King, you know what it was? That, again, maybe generation, this may or may not work. Lion King was Bambi in Africa. You know what Bambi is? Oh, damn. In the 1940s, 1942, I think, Walt Disney released a movie called Bambi. And it was a story of a mother deer and the baby Bambi. Well, Mama got shot by the evil hunter. And Bambi had to make her way in the world his world all by himself. And he eventually came back as, you know, the leader of the deer. the leader in the forest. Okay, it was based on a book that was written in Germany like 20 years before that had a whole more creepier sort of ending, but Walt Disney sanitized it, and this Bambi is the same or the same level as Snow White or Dumbo or any of these classic cartoon sort of thing. So the movie executive says, pitch it, I got this story, it's Bambi in Africa. Lion King is Bambi in Africa, right? Okay. Mustafa and Simba, like Simba is Bambi, and the friends, Thumper in Bambi. Bambi's got Thumper, the bunny rabbit, the friend bunny rabbit, and in Lion King we've got the warthog, and like, you know, Bambi in Africa. Here's another one. Now this is an app, Handy. What does Handy do? Anyone? What if I told you that Handy was Uber for house cleaning? Do you know what it does now? Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I've related what this is by referencing something you know. Uber for house cleaning. Okay. Okay, this one. Now, again, culturally / time-wise, I think I'm a little older, but has anyone seen a movie called Stand By Me? 1980s movie. It's a Stephen King story. It's a story of 4 friends. It's a coming-of-age story. You see the picture here. This is actually Will Wheaton. He went on to Star Wars. I forget his name. They're all still acting. He might be dead. Time goes by. So it's a coming-of-age story. These boys follow the railroad track. Okay, and in fact, the story is they're kind of trying to escape their older brothers or the older gang, and you know, coming of age, big story, movie in the 1980s. Jaws. Anyone ever see Jaws or hear of Jaws? Okay, big scary shark. Okay, so it's basically, you know, Ahab and the whale. It's only we have a shark. Okay, and this one you probably don't know. It's a movie that was in the 80s again. I know I'm fixated on the 80s here, but Poltergeist. You probably have never heard this, but the story is the little girl gets sucked into the TV by the ghosts, and she can't get out of the TV. Her friends have to get her, her parents have to get her out of the TV. Okay, so why do I reference this? Netflix. You've heard of Netflix. A couple of years ago, some movie producers came in. I got a story for you. I'm going to pitch an idea. Okay, I want you to picture Stand By Me meets Jaws meets Poltergeist. Netflix said, it's a great idea. What do you call it? Anybody want to guess? Stranger Things. Okay, who here has seen Stranger Things? You guys don't watch any television whatsoever. My examples are falling on deaf ears. No, Stranger Things is only recently. Yeah. And I know you probably didn't see you know, Stand By Me. You might have seen Jaws. You probably didn't see Poltergeist. But when the execs walked in, and again, you got to consider the context. So, you know, if you're in the movie business or the TV business now, you understand that these were big movies, right? And again, like if you've seen Stranger Things, it works in reverse as well. Stranger Things is the coming of age story of 4 boys, right, that get sucked into the TV. Well, like Will, I think it's Will, gets sucked into the Upside Down. Well, wait a second, exact same story, okay? And there's a big scary monster, Jaws. Okay, so you know, I'm using the analogy of Stranger Things in reverse to describe 3 movies. You know what those movies are, and you don't even need to watch them. You know how they work. I just told you. You know, does the little girl get out of the TV? Of course she does. Does Will get out of the Upside Down? Yeah, of course he does. Okay. You know, do their friends, are they like a tight bond of, you know, of teenagers that are growing up, and, you know, is that a big thing? Yeah, that's what's happening here, right? So you use these analogies and these metaphors and these examples in order to sort of describe things to your friends. Okay, 1204. Are there any questions so far? Are there any questions so far? Are there any questions online? I got a few more people there online now. Anybody online want to ask any questions? You guys are strangely quiet.
Excuse me.
Yep.
Just on the sideline, I've been curious that why is Uber not working in Cape Breton?
Okay, so the question is, why is there no Uber in Cape Breton?
Yeah.
There's also no Uber in Vancouver. Okay. Uber is a disruptor. Okay. So the value that Uber provides, it's actually a two-sided market with Uber. So you've got people that take Ubers, and you've got people that ride or drive for Uber, right?
Yeah.
So Uber is a classic disruptor, meaning they walked into the taxi cab industry and they destroyed it. So if you're a taxi cab driver in Boston, okay, you hate Uber. Or in fact, you drive your day job and then you drive Uber at night. Like, you know. The taxi cab industry in every city is highly regulated. Highly, highly regulated. To the point that in a city like New York, they call it a medallion. And I might physically be a medallion, I'm not sure if it is, but it's basically a licensing, a certification. So when they started the taxi cab industry in New York, the city controlled it because they needed to make sure people were safe, they could make some taxation off it. Like there's a whole lot of reasons why a municipality would want to both have a driving service, yet still want to maintain some control over it. So they issued these licenses, these medallions, and then they stopped like 100 years ago. You know, they don't make any more of these medallions. If you've got a taxi cab medallion, a license, that's your retirement. You sell it. Okay, you make money. It's your way of making money and income. But that license to operate, it's your retirement. Enter Uber, who says, "Come to my site, sign up, and you can drive too." You got a medallion. What do you think? Like, what's your reaction to that?
If you don't want to start Uber.
Oh, no, like you don't want these people. Like,
Yeah.
these people are evil, right?
Yeah.
And from a city perspective, the cities lose control of it. They lose the taxation. So Uber, and I'm not sure, I think Airbnb started first and then Uber afterwards. So the Airbnb model kind of got away from them and they're still trying to reel it in. So they cracked down on Uber a little quickly. So the cities that have Ubers didn't jump on it very quickly, and the ones that don't did and said, wait now, this can't happen. Like this messes up our model. So we now have this situation where, you know, some places have Ubers and some places don't.
Because the reason why I asked that was that, okay, we've created an app now, for example,
Yep.
and we're trying to solve the issues of multiple people.
Okay, issues of multiple people. Creating an app, issues of multiple, and I'm just repeating so everyone can hear. Okay. So you want to create an app and you're trying to solve the issues of multiple people.
More people, yeah, more people. And so we can create an app now, and how they, because now we're looking at the problem now. The locals now don't want to accept idea. That's the way we can summarize it.
Okay, so you're saying you make an app and the locals won't accept it.
Yeah.
Okay, continue.
Yeah, because you're referencing to Uber.
Yeah.
The taxi community,
Yeah.
the taxi peeps, they don't want to accept Uber.
Yeah.
Because they feel threatened.
Yeah.
In a way, yeah. But in the long run, if Uber actually came in, it could actually solve more problems.
Yep.
Than in the larger scale.
Yep.
So I'm just looking at, okay, I have this idea. I'm able to discover this problem. I'm able to discover these issues.
Yeah.
I don't want to see what I want. The
Okay.
idea, yeah.
So, and I'm going to summarize again for the people online because I'm not sure they can pick up what you're saying on the mic. So you create an app, but you get pushback because it's going to change somebody's life, and there's a chance that it may not get adopted because of that pushback. Is that what you're saying? Just to simplify. Yeah. And I'm using pushback just, simply sort of thing. Well, that can't happen, right? But there's all kinds of apps that really had no other competitor or no other. So Facebook had no pushback. They weren't displacing anyone. They were just forming another, kind of, So your app could be like that. It may not hurt or displace anyone, but may just provide value. Okay. Your app could displace something, and then you've got a market situation where people, users, will decide if they're going to use that, and if it's worth whatever pain or overcoming whatever barrier they have to in order to use your app. Okay, so the Uber situation is not finished. They're relatively a new company. They operate profitably in all kinds of places. So the change will come when the citizens of, say, Vancouver or Sydney, does Halifax have Uber? I don't think so. I don't think Halifax has Uber either. When the citizens say, you know what, we want Uber, and we're going to vote for the politicians that are going to give us Uber. Someone someday is going to have that on their election campaign, their platform, and say, you know what, I think Uber in Sydney and Halifax and Vancouver is a good idea. It may take a little bit longer, but those kind of changes do happen as well. Okay, so you might have something that doesn't disrupt an individual. You might have something that does. You're either adding value and making things better in the world. It's a happier place, and it's rainbows and unicorns for everybody. Or you have to work at overcoming speed bumps. Okay, both are likely. Both situations can happen. Okay. Anyone online? Anyone? You guys are all sitting there quietly. That's wonderful. Okay.
I have a question.
Shoot.
Could you please tell me, like, how are we going to do this app making?
Okay.
What's your
And I'm going to show you in a little on screen in a minute. I kind of went over that, I think, before you came in, but I'm going to circle back to that in a minute, just to sort of save time, and maybe later on you can ask me, and you can stay ask me some of those questions. I'm going to zip into my next slideshow here. I'm going to hit share window. I'm going to hit that, and I'm going to go into. I did that. We're doing this one now. Okay. A little bit more about apps and startups. And I'm trying to wrap this up by 12:30, just to keep it concise. And I will be available afterwards for a little bit to if anyone has to talk about some specific stuff. I'm doing this session again at 2:30. If you want to come see the show again, that's fine. I think this works. So we've got, I think, 8 or 9 people online, and probably 10 or 12 people here. So I should have a similar 10 or so people this afternoon, so there's room. Apps and startups. So just to talk about the ecosystem a little bit, just to follow this current discussion. This here, I hope you guys can see this online. Let me know if you can't see this stuff online. I'm hoping everything is transferring nicely. This is the actual email, misspellings and everything, that Joe, I think Gebbia, if I could pronounce his name correctly, sent to his friend Brian. Okay, Brian, I thought of a way to make a few bucks. How it starts. I thought of a way to make a few bucks. Classic. Turning our place into designers' bed and breakfast, offering young designers who come into town a place to crash during the 4-day event. So there was a designers conference happening in town, so there was thousands of designers coming in. They get a wireless internet, small desk space, a sleeping mat, and breakfast each morning. Ha! Of course, that is the start of what? Airbnb. Okay. So the roadmap here, like the map to these startups is not necessarily clean. Like you don't create the app and next day you're making bank. Like you're not like the next day. It takes a while. Sometimes never happens. So it starts with 2 guys that can't pay for the rent. Does that sound familiar? Okay, 2 guys can't pay the rent. So they said, you know what? We're going to rent out some air mattresses. What do they got? What are their resources? I love The Princess Bride as a movie. I reference it all the time. There's a scene in there where they're trying to storm the castle and they're going through their resources. They have to storm the castle, which is almost nothing. So what do they got? Well, they got a room and they got some air mattresses. Great. Let's throw it out online and see if we can rent out, because there's room shortages. It's a big conference, and maybe we can rent. Yep, let's do that. So 3 people showed up. $80. They made $80. I think they did it on Craigslist or something. Craigslist. Great, let's do it again. Okay, but we got to up our game. Well, we'll bring in another friend who knows some code, very little code probably, because basically they just threw it on I forget what it was. They never really made Airbnb at that moment. They threw it on something, and anyway, got them online. Another conference coming up, South by Southwest. They do that. Boom. Well, they got a couple people, but it really wasn't, So they played with the idea, what are we going to do? That didn't really work. Maybe we'll switch channels. Maybe what we're going to do is try a roommates thing, roommates. So maybe we'll look for a roommate site. Well, they were like, but they researched that, and that's out there, and let's go back to the airbed thing. Okay. So they're trying it. Takes a while. Not getting much traction. Then they decide that they're going to produce some cereal. Does that sound like a weird step? Okay. 2008 presidential elections, they created cereal boxes with what's his name, McCain and Obama, and they sold cereal as a promotion to raise some money. So they made some money, put a little bit in the bank. They got a little bit of attention because of it. And they got $20,000 also because of the they attracted that attention. They got like $20,000 in investment. So that started them off, really. So they take that and they make some other changes and they go to New York. We're going to try it in New York. Okay. So they set up in New York. Crickets, tumbleweeds. I say crickets and tumbleweeds. You see the old Western movies where nothing's happening in town and a tumbleweed rolls down the street. Tumbleweeds. Okay, what's going on? We're making like $100 a week doing this. This is not working out. And they looked at again, the resources, how it was set up, what it looked like. And they're like, you know what? The pictures suck. These air bed and breakfasts, like the pictures are, let's go get a photographer and actually go around and stage and make these places look like something. Okay? Next thing you know, they're making $400 a week and $1,000 a week. Okay? Up to the point where they went public in 2022 or 2020. I forget, 2020. They were at least public by 2022. And they're like a $1.8 billion company or something crazy like that. Okay. So the path's sometimes long. And like I said at one point earlier, I said, you think you know what you know, and then you kind of, the rubber meets the road, and you finally know, oh, wait a second, I really don't know much. Now I got to start learning. There's the cereal. Okay. Captain McCain's and Obama's. I think $40,000 I think they raised, but so airbed and breakfast went from airbed and breakfast. Think about when you say Airbnb, right? Oh, it's a B&B. No, the airbed is the first part. They were renting airbeds. Okay, so the transition, even in your head, like went from airbed and breakfast to Airbnb to the newest logo. So everyone just understands that Airbnb is not just mattresses on the floor anymore. Okay. That was their original website. I mean, not original, but that was sort of a median website. And you can see, like, it's very 1990s looking. I think, well, maybe 2007 or 8 looking, but yeah, airbed and breakfast. So that's their story. Interesting idea. Come up with an application for it. Failed, changed it. Failed again, changed it again. Failed some more, changed it again, and then all of a sudden, things worked. Okay. Now that could be your path. I'm not saying that anyone here is or isn't going to make a $1.8 billion company. If you do, remember me. But the process is worth understanding, because it is the process of life, right? Many of you might have had a first girlfriend or boyfriend, right? Well, how'd that end up? Well, you learned a lot, right? And then you kind of had another relationship and you learned some more from that. Maybe you got lucky the first time around. I don't know. But, jobs. You start off with a job. Maybe it's not so great, but you learned a lot from it. And you move on to another job and you learn a lot from that. So there's an organic nature to this. There's a reality to this progress. You know, you're not gonna hit a home run. You know, there's not a single 6-year-old on the planet that walked up playing t-ball or baseball or cricket or whatever you want, right? And smacked a ball out of the field the first time. Okay? They don't make those. Okay? You know, the kid swung at the ball and missed 50 times before they ever got to hit their first ball. Other companies, Facebook. Facebook started as Face Smash. Do you know what a Facebook is? You know what a Facebook is? What? Okay, so you know when you're watching, like, I guess an older movie now, because you got a witness, and they pull them into the precinct, and they put this big book on the desk with all these criminals in it, right? And they're flipping through the pages looking for the criminal, you know, who robbed me, who did whatever. That's a Facebook. Okay, it's a list of criminals. It's a book of criminals' faces. And Facebook started in, it's the Microsoft story, started in a dorm in Harvard, right? With a couple of friends who had this idea. And it went through iterations, okay? It was originally just for Harvard. It was like to pick up in Harvard. It was a dating thing, right? But all of a sudden everybody wanted to be on it. So we have an evolution to, you know, the modern, you know. Uber. Uber was actually the result. There's all kinds of ways this stuff happens. Two CEOs who had already successfully cashed out, so to speak, stumbled upon and Red Swoosh were the companies of the two original founders of Uber, and they got together and said, hey, let's do this again. Now that we've learned all kinds of stuff, you know, 2010, after Airbnb, they took the Airbnb model, basically, and applied it to cars. Okay. YouTube. You know what YouTube was first? Anyone know? YouTube was a dating site. It's the most successful failed dating site ever. You think about it. Like, so back in the day, back in the 80s in the VCR era, and you may see this in a TV show or a movie, but you get a stack of VCR tapes. Like, you go into a dating service and they give you like 10 tapes of people they think you might like, and you go home and, you know, they've recorded themselves. Hi, I'm Bethany, and I like magic ponies, and, you know, you try to find somebody that, you know, that you're compatible with, so to speak. YouTube did that first, failed, but everyone liked sharing videos, okay? And they went through their transitions. This one's interesting. I don't completely know the whole story. Anyone hear of Vine? Vine. So what's Vine?
Small short videos.
It's similar not to YouTube. It's similar to. It's TikTok. Yeah, it's the failed version of TikTok from 15 years ago, or whenever it was. What year was it? 2013. Yeah, 10 years ago. Vine, and I remember Vine. I never subscribed. I didn't. But I remember overnight, everything was about Vine. Vine was everywhere, and it was. I think they said 6 seconds originally. 6 seconds, it was everywhere, and then it was gone. I don't even remember what happened, but something, they got bought out or something, blah, 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 blah. But there it was, gone. And then 10 years later, TikTok, which is basically the exact same thing. Okay, this is where these short form videos and reels, and like Facebook adopted a Vine-like thing, and Instagram started because of a Vine, you know, there. So there's all kinds of ways that ideas propagate, you know. People come together, they share ideas, people take advantage of opportunity, people copy what other people are doing. Like TikTok is not doing anything unique whatsoever. It probably wasn't done by Vine and 55 other companies. So with all of that in the background, why do you want to build an app? Okay. So we started off saying we have to solve a problem. So when I was young, and I was once, believe it or not, when I was young, computers came out. So like within my youth, my 10, 11, 12-year-old version of me, with an awful bold haircut, and clothes my mother would have picked out. You can imagine. You guys have no idea how bad style and clothing was in the 70s. Our parents were merciless. Wide lapels and frilly things and weird colors. And anyway, so back in those days, computers came out, and even then it was kind of funny, and in retrospect, it's kind of comical. So computers came out, home computers. Well, what can I use it for? You can use it to store your recipes. Oh yeah, I'm going to buy a computer to store my chocolate chip cookie recipes and my hot cross bun recipes, right? It was at that time people bought computers to buy a computer. Really actually wasn't that much you could do, playing some games and stuff. But it took the internet to really make computers useful for most people. So let's compare that for a minute. Why do I want to have a program, a computer program, to store my recipes? Well, how am I doing it now? I got a recipe card, piece of paper. I got a piece of paper. I got a pencil. It's portable. It's cheap. What's wrong with it? Is it ripe for disruption? Well, at the time, take your Commodore 64, right, and your monitor, okay, and we're not talking LCD. We're talking the full-blown CRT, the big bad boy, right, weighed like 80 pounds. Well, let's put that in your kitchen so you can store your, right? So there you are. You got egg on one hand and flour on the other, and you're like, I want the recipe for like oat cakes. How'd that work? Nobody used their computer for. I mean, there were some geeky people that did it for the sake of doing it, but there's not a baker in North America that really, did that. Or in fact, we had these phases we went through. TVs were so important, we dedicated a room to them in our house, the TV room. And then computers got so embedded, we made a room for it, a special room. You know what we called it? The computer room, right? So when something happened, we dedicated a room to it, right? TV room, computer room. So there you are, running from the computer room to the kitchen. Oh, was that a third of a cup or half a cup? No, wait a second. Did it say 350 for 20 minutes or 320 for 30 minutes? Back and forth. Yeah, didn't make any sense. Computer program, recipe cards, didn't make any sense. So people say today, well, I'm going to make an app for a grocery list. Now, there are actually lots of apps for grocery lists, but what do I do now to make a grocery list? Okay, piece of paper, pencil, it's portable, it's cheap. Okay, versus I'm going to make an app for my phone that's a grocery list. So first of all, I need an $800 device. Okay, I need electricity. Let's talk about the role of electricity in all of this, right? If I'm in a cave in Afghanistan, I can still write out a grocery list on a piece of paper. Wireless technology, there's already a notepad app on your phone. Why do you need an app when there's already one there that, if you had the phone, that works? It costs a lot of money. Okay? So, is anyone going to really succeed with a grocery app? No. Unless you come up with a revolutionary way to disrupt the grocery list market. What if my device just knows what I need? What if it's magic and it knew that I needed eggs? Right? Telekinesis, artificial intelligence, some sort of delivery service. Okay? The point is, with this, I mean, you look at the resources and how things are working now. Like, is your app really better? Well, to make a grocery list app for your phone, as it is now, probably not. But employ artificial intelligence, create some sort of network that just knows that you're on your last bit of milk. That would transform people's lives. No, I'm serious. Like, who here shops for groceries? Who here has been in the grocery store going, do I need eggs or not? I don't know. Right? What if it just knows? Okay? Is anyone building this? You're darn right they are. Okay? The fastest growing segment in retail is voice now. Okay? And AI. Alexa knows if you are out of cheese or very close to it. Okay? Alexa, what do I need in my refrigerator? Oh, you're almost out of cheese. Would you like some? Yeah, order me some cheese. It'll be delivered. Okay? Do you want the same kind of cheese you got last time? Yeah, sure. Give me some of that cheese. I like that. Okay? Remember I said think big? Okay? When you think small, not that small can't work. Small can sometimes be beautiful. There's no universals in the world. Okay? When you think small, you're going to get small rewards, and maybe that's fine. Think big, you might get big rewards. Like, don't be afraid. Like, and you might say to yourself, well, I have no idea what artificial intelligence is. And you might not. But someone does. Okay? You buy that. Okay? You work the business plan, you work the model, you get the investment, you buy that. You bring in the expertise. Okay? Airbnb, did they know how to program anything? Nothing. They had to bring in a friend who knew a little bit about something. Okay. So why build an app? The technology has changed and enables some sort of better service, better solution to a problem, saves money, it's portable, offers a competitive advantage. Okay? How is it better? Okay. Well, yeah, my number, I didn't renumber my numbers. I'll fix that later. How is it better? Well, think of what you have in your phone. Like, you've got more technology in the phone than NASA used to put man on the moon. I mean, a lot of people say that, and I'm just copying it, but it's completely true. Okay? You've got more computing power in your pocket than existed in the world at the time. You got a camera. Okay? What did the mobile phone do? It killed the camera market. Okay? You can't buy cheap cameras anymore. No one wants them. You can buy expensive ones, like the big pro ones, but, you know, they built cameras. GPS, right? Like, you know where you are, and you know where what you want is. Okay? Data, you can remember, find, store, get, all kinds of stuff. Okay? See, these are built into your phone as core services. In fact, they call them core services. They're core services. Okay? Does your app leverage any of these core services? You know, can I take my phone, point it at my cupboard, take a picture, and AI says, oh, you got chocolate chips in there. Let's make some cookies. Right? GPS, right? How far am I from the store to get my chocolate chips that I need for my cookies? Okay? Phone, I'd like to make some cookies. What don't I have? Oh, you got everything you need but chocolate chips. Can you get me some? Yeah, they'll be here in half an hour. Okay? We've gone from our grocery list that was a piece of paper and a pencil of marginal use, and it's grown into, a completely functional, valid app that might add value to your life or someone else's. I don't know, I don't hear this phrase as much anymore, and I'll reintroduce it. Has anyone heard the phrase killer app? Now, the phrase killer app predates cell phones, like smartphones. Killer apps are a reason you buy a device. Okay, so in the computing age, does anyone know what the first killer? No. The problem, and the reason word processors aren't, is because originally you couldn't really print it out. Like back then, you had nice Underwood typewriters, and you could type a letter out, and it came out really nice. I mean, it was all manual. Back then, it was dot matrix printers, and they looked awful. So no, it wasn't Word, but you're close. What?
Calculators.
Excel. Lotus 1, 2, 3, Excel, okay, spreadsheets. Spreadsheets revolutionized finance. I had this discussion the other day with someone, and we were talking about it was like a management thing, and they talked about the 80s, where, again, I'm back to the 80s again. Does it make me look like I'm fixated? Because in the 80s, what started to happen was you had corporate raiders people that could go in and buy a company and break it up and make money from the pieces. How did they know they could do that? Well, because they used the technology. Like personal computers came out, they could put the information in, run some numbers and go, oh, this thing's worth much more than the sum of its parts, right? The technology created, the modern stock market, essentially. There's no people in the stock market anymore. Killer app. It was a reason to buy a computer. Now, word processing was in there too, but it would fully come to fruition when we got a laser printer. Okay, that sort of. I laugh at the term. We used to talk about the paperless office. We kill more trees now, than we ever thought we did back then. Okay, so killer app. What's the next killer app? Graphic design. Okay, Illustrator, graphic design. Okay, you go from rooms full of equipment to putting design on your desktop. Next killer app, and there's only been a couple. There's really only been a couple. Next killer app, and I'm running out of time. Email. Okay, so all that was before. Think of all the things that happened, right? Before email ever. So email was the third killer app. It was a reason to get the internet, a reason to get a computer. Okay, I was shocked when my mother, my sweet little old gray-haired mother, was like, Todd, I got to get a computer. And I'm like, what? Who are you? And what have you done with my mother? Okay, well, my friends have email. I need email. She has a computer. Email, killer app, right? And you'd argue, and I don't know, and the phrase kind of went out of common use. But you get to the cell phone stage. Is there a killer app for? Now we got email, okay? We got all the graphics and stuff. We got the financial, the email itself, the internet itself. Was there another killer app, another massive leap that caused millions of people to adopt a technology? What's that? Texting, WhatsApp, sure. And I would say, WhatsApp or maybe Facebook, but yes, okay. People buy phones because there's a thing they have now called green bubble anxiety. You ever heard of that? Okay, you know what green bubble means? Who here has an iPhone? Okay, what color are your text bubbles? They're blue. Yeah. What happens if someone texts you and it's got a green bubble on it? What's that?
My attention will be caught.
No.
We'll be trying to look at what is the message. We'll be anxious.
No. Do you have an iPhone?
No.
What do you have? Samsung? Something like that. Yeah, Android. Yeah, Android. The Apple Message application, iMessage. Okay, when two iMessage apps communicate, they do through the iMessage protocol. SMS, which is what is the old texting standard, is what Android phones use. So when an SMS message comes through, it's green. So you're a group of 14-year-old girls, and 8 of you have an iPhone, and 1 of you has an Android device. What's your social anxiety like? Oh, there's that Android person again trying to talk to us. Right? It's elevated to an action. Look it up, green bubble anxiety. It's real. The group messaging works in iMessage. It doesn't connect to Samsung people or to Android people. Okay, so your friends are getting together. They're going to the mall. Hey, we're going to the mall. What time are you going to be there? Right? Well, you got a green bubble. You're not getting any of that. You're not in the social group. Okay, look it up. Fascinating. What's that?
This is the way how Apple try to create an ecosystem. Only they want people to only remain in Apple.
You're right. So you're talking about, again, for the people online, the ecosystem that Apple has built. They have an ecosystem. They definitely do. I think it was an accident to start with. And we can discuss that later on. But yes, there's definitely an ecosystem situation happening there. And just to, I'll just finish this off. We'll talk more about this in the next class, next session. How can you make money? People can pay you, they can subscribe, there could be sponsorship. There's a bunch of different ways that you can monetize this, okay? Now, maybe you want to put an app together for social reasons, that's fine, but it doesn't pay for itself. It's got to have a supporting system. So Wikipedia, who here uses Wikipedia? Everybody. How much have you ever paid for Wikipedia? You donated $2? Okay, good. You donated $10? I donated $20 one day, okay? I finished a degree a few years ago. I used Wikipedia a lot. I was like, I at least got to give these guys something. You know what I mean? Like, thank you. I give them $20, okay? $154 million in revenue last year in donations. Now, again, their model is mostly social, blah, 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 blah. If they were a corporation, they might be in the billions, I don't know. But they need money to live, right? These things don't support themselves. These databases, this network doesn't support itself. So you might have a commercial, you might have another idea that has some other funding mechanism. We'll talk about how to build an app later on. Okay. So just the last thing I want to do, just to sort of to wrap up, if I can call it wrapping up. The schedule, and let me go over here to have a look at, let me have a look at the schedule here. So the way this is going to work, so the only two things you have to do is get the workbook, fill it out, okay, and submit it on the 23rd. Okay. I am offering other sessions and all the in-between stuff. Okay. So today is the 9th, so we're here on the 9th. So Thursday at 11:30, I have another session. Show up. Stream online. Okay, no pressure. 16th, 11:30, same thing. Show up, stream online, no pressure. So Tuesday, Thursday, Tuesday, Thursday, Tuesday. Okay. And I'll go through a bunch of stuff that's going to help you make a better app. Okay, this is just the introduction to how we're doing this, why we're doing this, what we're doing with it, and the inspiration, hopefully, to say, look, there's all kinds of really great ideas out there, and other people have done stuff that's really cool. I can probably do something cool too. So in the end, you'll have developed a plan. And actually, I skipped over the slide. I was going to say I had a slide there. I'll talk about it maybe next on Thursday, but it had like 10 things on it, how to make an app. Well, the first 4 or 5, that's what we're doing here. Like before you ever write a line of code, there's all kinds of stuff you got to do. Right? It starts with the idea. We're going to wireframe this, and I mentioned wireframing. So, so the app we're going to use, and there's a link in inside of inside the workbook and online. Okay, so so this is mock-ups. Okay, and literally like you drag out buttons and text fields and like and you build what you're doing out of pieces. So there's a library of pieces. Is it stencils? The devices, yeah. So, I go on an iPhone 10, I just drag out an iPhone 10. No, I don't want to upgrade my plan. Okay. And I start with my iPhone 10. I want to put a back button on there. There's a back button. Okay. Now, again, you can draw these things out, sketch, back of napkin stuff is great. Okay. This organizes it a little bit more, and I'm not talking about writing the code or getting it exactly, but the buttons and the flow and what goes where, what someone sees, yeah, this is very easy to do. No programming needed. So this is Mockups, free account, Mockups, moqups.com. Go on, make an account. They give you one sheet to work with, but when you buy it, they give you multiple sheets and all kinds of other things. But the basic feature is completely free. Okay. So you can do this, and then in the end, you'll share it. So you'll click the share, you'll copy that link, and then in the workbook, there's a place to paste the link. I'll be able to see what you got. Okay. Any questions? Any questions there now? MOQUPS. MOQUPS.
Where can I get this PDF? Like PowerPoint?
It's on the team site. So there's a team site for these sessions. You didn't give me your info yet. I'll get your info and I'll put you on it. I don't think you're on it yet. Anyone online? Any questions online?
Hi, sir. Is it an individual work or group work?
Prefer individual. I'm not going to stand
Okay,
over
sir.
you and police you. If you have 50 people behind you while you type, I have no control over that. But as an individual, like you'll be entering.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Tushar?
What are the criteria on the basis?
You're asking me the tough questions. I'm going to sit down with a pizza. We're going to evaluate it holistically. I thought about this where 10 points for this and 5 points for that, and I find that arbitrary a little bit. I'm really looking for, in general, someone had a blazing, amazing idea, and did the work to fill it out. That's what you need to do. If someone had a bad idea with all the work to fill it out, okay. Someone had a great idea but didn't do any work. Well, I can guarantee you that's getting. I've only got the workbook to go by, okay. And I'm doing it this way. It's sort of like an anti-pitch competition, okay. I want to see the work, right? So if someone demonstrates the work concisely. Like I said, less is more. Okay, don't write me a long letter, write me a short one. A lot of the fields, they're restricted. You get 2 lines. And it's like 2 lines. Like I'm doing that specifically because I'm not reading 9 paragraphs of something, right? And that's what happens when you really don't know what you're doing. You got to think about it. I want you to give me the short version of something, okay? So it's going to come down to who does the work and explains it the best with a reasonable idea. No pitch. I'm not doing a pitch. This is a no pitch, no code event. Now, in the end, we're going to end up with probably some good ideas. I don't know if there's going to be a part 2 to this. Like, I'd like to think we had some really good ideas that we can actually come up with a mechanism of bringing some technical help in and doing something with them. No guarantees, but I'd like to see that happen should we have some good work done. Are we good? Okay. Any other questions online? Oh, we got a hand up there. Odinaka?
Yeah. Hi, Todd.
Hi.
Hi. Yeah. My question is this: our submission is 23rd, right?
Yes.
Okay. How many apps is one allowed to do? Can you do more than one, or you stick to one?
Can you submit multiple ideas? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Yes.
I wouldn't stop you, but I would rather see you spend more time and create a better single submission. Okay? Submitting 2 half-hearted entries is not as probably prosperous a strategy as submitting 1 really good one.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else?
You want me to fill the up and down?
Okay, so for the people that are here, the sheet's in front of you. If you can fill that out, just so I know who's here.
Yeah, I need
Okay.
the app name. You want me to put the name down?
If you have it, yeah. Just a name, just have an idea. And that's,
Can we change the name later on?
yes. Yeah. Yeah. If you feel comfortable submitting a name, please do. If you don't, or you're still working on it, that's fine. I just kind of wouldn't mind seeing, if I could, and get an idea of where people are with stuff. Okay. For everyone online, and actually I'm going to fill up my list here. I got Depeche, Abigail, Shariba, Shabari, capital ODINAKA Okay, so the guys online, I'm going to email you just a copy of the sign-up sheet, just so I can have that information on file. If you don't hear from me with that within the next half hour or so, email me back, and I just maybe don't have your email address, and I'll send you a copy. Okay, is that it? And I did it not too bad. I'm only a little over time, so thank you very much. And if you want to come back at 2:30, great. If not, I'll see your submissions online or whatnot. And if you have a friend who might want to take part at 2:30, please spread the word. Thanks. Hold on.